attendee. We will also have the deck and the presentation posted up onto our partner portal within 24 hours. So if you want to go back and take a listen through it and run with it from there, you certainly can. If you wanted to forward it to some of your colleagues or partners and have them watch it, you can certainly do that as well. And I just have a question. Okay, we're good to go. I thought I had a question. Am I muted, Summer, or am I okay?
You're good. Sorry.
Okay, thanks, Summer. No problem. So, guys, sorry about that. A little technical question we had to answer real quick. Boy, that would have been a waste of 2 minutes of my blabbering. No worries. Here we go. So let's talk about CloudRecovery, which is RapidScale's product name for disaster recovery as a service. And I am not working off of my normal multi-monitors, guys, so I apologize. It's a little difficult for me to move this thing around. Let's see if that helps me. There we go. That helps. Okay, so disaster recovery as a service, guys. Everybody knows what this product set is. But the demand around disaster recovery as a service has literally gone through the roof in the last 12 to 18 months. And we've got some slides here later that speak specifically to why we've seen such a big uptick in this particular product set and service. And we think that we are one of the best positioned companies to offer this service to your customers. So we're happy that you're on the call with us, and you'll be able to take some information back to them in the future and hopefully solve a business problem for them. So one of the best things about disaster recovery as a service is, I would say 100% of the people on the phone today understand disaster recovery, and that's a good piece, right? You understand disaster recovery, you know how it works, you sell it via other products and services today. And this is no different. It's disaster recovery for a customer's IT infrastructure and their critical applications. So that being said, we see more and more of this coming based on requirements from different entities, which helps us obviously sell the product a little more effectively than we do in the past. Sorry guys, a little technical difficulty here. I'm coming right back up to it. So those compliancy requirements come around HIPAA and FINRA and PCI compliance, Sarbanes-Oxley. There are a lot of regulatory bodies out there that are making their groups become compliant around data storage and holding on to this data for a long time, and also around compliancy with regards to disaster recovery and having systems be available, especially when you have critical data being needed by patients and other people out there. So we're seeing a lot more folks push this product set based on the specific industry verticals that they're in today. So what are we when we talk about disaster recovery? Cloud recovery. This is a slide that most of you have seen before, so I won't spend a lot of time on it, but if you're talking with your IT resources and you're talking about disaster recovery, guys, you need to know these two acronyms, RTO and RPO. And I love this particular infographic because it really does talk about what we're doing with regards to protecting a customer's environment, right? And the severe unexpected event is the thing that we're all looking for. That's the piece of the puzzle that we have to have a human actually make the call. Are we going to fail over to our secondary site and make that our production site, right? So that's a really important part of this conversation. Here at RapidScale, we don't do any fully automated failover services. We always have to have a human tell us we need to fail over. And the reason for that, there are several, but primarily when you do a full auto failover environment, you can run into problems where somebody decides to patch a server or take a server down to do maintenance and they forget to notify or change the settings around the automated failover, and they inadvertently fail the system over, right? You can imagine what a pain in the butt that is for customers who are out there today if that happens automatically. So that's one of the reasons, probably the most important reason, that we will not have any automated failovers inside of our environment. We always look to have those customers give us the nod and say, let's knock this, let's push this over to our failover site. So your recovery time objective, just for a little bit of background for those of you who may not be used to this may not have seen this before. Your RTO is all about how much time can your customer be down. That's really the key in this particular slide. How long can they be down? Most RTOs, you're going to have customers who have critical applications who are going to tell you less than 4 hours. You'll have some say less than 2 hours. You'll even have some say less than an hour, right? Based on requirements from customers and what they're willing to bring into the fold. At RapidScale, we can meet almost any requirement they give us, but there are some caveats behind that. We'll talk about those in a few minutes. Recovery point objective. This is how much data they can tolerate to lose. So remember, how long can I be down is one of the factors, and then how much data can I lose? How much can go away? And you'll generally find that these don't have to be tied to each other. You could have one customer who says, I can do an RTO of an hour, but I could lose up to a day worth of data because my business doesn't require on that. Sorry, guys. And then you can have it the other way around, like for a FINRA organization who is guided by the financial sector, they could tell you that they absolutely can't lose a smidgen of data, zero. They can't lose anything. There are heavy fines if they lose data around a transaction, but they may be able to be down for an hour, right? So just think about those two different pieces of the puzzle and how they work together when you're talking to your clients. Now, if you're not comfortable with these pieces of the puzzle, guys, this is exactly what RapidScale does for you as a business partner. We want to work with you in earning this business. And if this is stepping into a new type of a business that you haven't done before, then take advantage of your channel managers and channel leaders around the country that represent RapidScale and engage us in shoulder-to-shoulder selling with you. We're happy to knock the door down with you, do the discovery call, and you can learn along the way. And we've got great solution engineers that if we get super technical, I'll put our guys against the best technical IT teams out there in the space that our teams can sit there and have as deep dive a discussion with these guys as they'd like to look for. Now, we all know we're all in this for the same thing, right? Even though we might want to say that we're here to build our businesses and we want to take care of our clients. I know we all want to do that, but we also are all here to make sales, right? That's what we do. We are a sales organization. And here's just some great information that can kick the door open to you guys. And remember, we will be sending this presentation out to everybody who's on here, so don't feel like you have to jot this down. These are just some great pieces of information that can help you open the door to a company that you may not have been able to get in before by approaching them with a disaster recovery solution versus one of your traditional solution sets, right? So one of these that scares the heck out of me, but 93% of companies that experience a data disaster are out of business within 5 years, guys. That's a crazy statement. And you know something? That just tells you how important data is in our world that we live in today, right? If we lose all of the data, and you guys can all think about this in your own world, in your own businesses, if you lost all of your data, like your computer completely crashed and you didn't back it up, you didn't use any software as a service solutions, you had everything running on your laptop, right? And that thing burns the motherboard and all the data is gone. What would that do to your business, right? You'd probably be able to come back from it, but if you take that and you multiply it times 500 employees and how much data is going in there, it's terribly hard for those businesses to recover. So when you're talking about opening the door to go sit in front of a client, right, the whole idea is how do we open that door? How do we get their attention, right? So what we're going to help you guys with is some real basic computations. Now, these can get a lot more deep. They can get a lot more granular. But if you just look at a standard business model, when you estimate downtime and how much does it cost you off of revenue, you'll see that, the average size client today, depending on how big they are, when they're down, it's a real loss of revenue, especially if their business runs off of the critical applications. So if you're doing $1 million a year in business, you're a 24/7 by 365 model. You're talking $114 per million of downtime. It doesn't sound that bad, right? If I'm a $10 million organization, I'm down for 10 hours. It's going to cost me about $1,100, $1,140. Okay, maybe not that critical to me at that point. But now how many people run businesses 24/7 by 365? A lot do, but not a lot of the SMB or the mid-market, right? They're more of a 40-hour work week, 52 weeks a year. So look at the impact now, $480 per million per hour, right? Now this, guys, is just lost revenue. So when you start talking to business leaders and you're talking about disaster recovery and business continuity, quick little opening line to use, what keeps you up at night, Mr. CFO or Mr. CEO or Mr. CIO? One of the things you'll almost always hear back from those particular prospects is downtime, right? What keeps me up at night is downtime. As a matter of fact, we were out at we actually had a partner come into our new corporate headquarters in Irvine about 2 weeks ago, and everything around this organization was about their downtime, right? They're in the financial services industry, and downtime to them is absolutely critical. And they're not talking about losing $480 an hour. They're talking about losing $40,000 an hour if they're down, or $400,000 an hour. It's real money in real time. So part of the conversation we had was, if it's that important to you and you have to be up constantly, why haven't you gone back to your software provider and talked to them about global load balancing and building out your production environment into 2 active environments where you never have to worry about one data center being down? Interesting question, right? We turn the entire conversation on its ear. If this is so critically important to your company, why wouldn't you make the investment to build another production facility versus running one and having a failover in another? And I bet you all could answer that question. It was a cost issue to them. So, it's good to be able to put a line in the sand with your customers and your prospects and know exactly, where's that financial liability stop, right? That's a big piece of the puzzle, guys. So dig into that and be ready for those conversations. It can allow you to go from a traditional IT conversation, feeds and speeds, or whatever your primary product set is you sell. Maybe you're a mobile device management company and you're selling mobile device management, and you've gotten into selling cloud because it's complementary to your business. This allows you to talk to customers about their business needs, and that's really how we win long-term customers with solution selling. Now, for those of you who've met me and we've talked cloud recovery in the past, I always share this. I have a customer whose biggest concern, they had a 4-hour outage. This is literally about, probably a year ago now. They had a 4-hour outage, and they were running production and failover with one company, and the failover didn't work like it was supposed to, and that 4-hour outage cost them, I'm trying to remember, I think it was about $120,000. But this customer said that's not what he was worried about. What the $120,000 is something that he's built into his business plan and his contingencies, worst case scenarios. We all know that there's going to be problems, and we find ways to mitigate that risk and work around it. The part of the risk he couldn't mitigate was that the outage happened on a Friday at 3 o'clock until 7 o'clock, which Murphy's Law, what's coming next. When's his highest ordering volume come in weekly? 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock on Fridays. So his outage impacted him when all of his customers were coming to him to buy his products online. Now think about this. He not only lost the revenue that he calculated of $120,000, $30,000 an hour, which was a big amount of money to him, but now he's worried that these customers had to go procure their goods from somebody else. So how many customers did he lose in that 4-hour outage? Now, if you think about that and you really ponder it for a few minutes, you understand that that's the kind of conversation you want to have with a CFO, a CEO, and a CIO. Get them to think outside of the box, not just normal revenue loss, but what happens to your business, right? The 93% of companies that don't come back because they didn't rebuild the data and recover it, it's probably because of the extenuating circumstances around losing that data, such as losing customers. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. So let's talk about disasters. I love this one. So this first talks about recovery, guys, and again, I'm going to send this out to everybody, so don't worry about trying to take down all the information. But this is how, off of a survey, we looked at what do most people do with regards to DR as a service, or DR period, disaster recovery and business continuity. You see a huge section of this is active passive disk, meaning they've got full production in one data center and then a failover production at another data center, or maybe a satellite office, or maybe headquarters. This always has just drove me crazy when you look at customers who do this for their solution sets. And typically it's because what they end up doing, they're not going to refresh all the gear in the primary production data center and then go back and refresh all the gear in the failover center. What they do is they refresh production and they move all the production gear to the failover center. So you're taking gear that's anywhere from 3 to 7 years old and putting it in your failover center and saying, if anything ever happens, I'm going to be able to rely on this gear to get me up and get me running and put me back in production. It's almost counterintuitive, isn't it? Think about that. And that's how the majority of people are doing their DR today. And then look at this big chunk of people who are still using tape. And we ran into these guys. We love seeing customers who are using tape. It's amazing to us because it's such an easy sell for us to move them into a disaster recovery as a service solution set with RapidScale, where really all they're paying for is very small server instances if they need them, if they're running physical servers, and then licensing and storage. So it's very much a cost savings institute for them if they're running physical tape, as well as if they're running active passive. They're running active, I just described that solution to you before, right? Active, you really don't need a DR center, but anybody you find running active, guess what? They do have a failover in a third location because that's how critical their data and their applications are to them. They're taking out all possible issues that could happen that could put their company down, which makes sense. DR strategy and development, there's a nice size of the pie, right? How many customers are out there saying, we really need to do something, but we haven't? So listen, if you become an expert in DR, you can pick that business up in a heartbeat. No DR strategy, they're just waiting for the other shoe to fall, right? And then other, I have no idea what other is. But the good piece to this is to say that, you know, technology has leapfrogged traditional methodology around disaster recovery and business continuity, meaning physical tapes and active passive. We can give a better result and a better solution with our technology we have in place today than what they have today. So that's always a good selling point to your clientele. And this one, I love this, guys. If you're going to take anything out of this presentation today, I'm hoping you'll take a lot, but take this piece, right? Everybody thinks about disasters, and we all naturally think of natural disasters. Hurricanes, if you're down in the southeast, right? We just had one get called a hurricane last week for some of the folks out there who we work with. Glad everybody's okay. We have tornadoes in the central region in Texas. You're right, I was in Texas not too long ago. We had tornado warnings. First time I ever had that in my life. It was quite fun. In the Northeast, we had Hurricane or Superstorm Sandy a few years back, right? That's when literally, if we'd have had fax machines in place, we would have ran out of paper. We had so many orders coming in from the Northeast. And then out in California, you guys know what we have in California, right? It's that earthquake. We're all waiting for the big earthquake to happen and take California out, which hopefully I won't be there. I'll be traveling that week. So I'm kidding. Hopefully I'll be there because, boy, I don't want those phone calls if I lose that whole data center. Just kidding. So natural disasters make up a really small piece of the pie. What makes up the biggest pieces of the pie? Human error and erroneous patching and updating. And that could be going back to human error as well, guys. That's 60% of this pie, or 45% of this pie in those two alone. And those are the things that you've got to be prepared for, right? That's what, when you're talking to a customer, a CIO, a CTO, a director of IT, you need to push the envelope a little bit and ask them, you know, you don't have a contingency plan if somebody accidentally patches a server and takes that server out of commission and then the server can't come back up. That's scary. It's a scary way to do business. And then power outages, that's obviously a big one. Server room environment issues, right? I've got a good friend who sold our products a couple of times, and he made a comment once in front of a customer. It's not the fire in the building that destroys your data room. It's the impending water that comes to put the fire out in the building that destroys all the computers and servers in the data room. And I thought that was just a gem when he said that in front of a client with me. I thought that was one of the best things I'd heard. So FYI, lots and lots of opportunity here for everybody to really dig in and sell disaster recovery as a service. And you've heard me say a couple of times disaster recovery as a service and bring into that, business continuity. Guys, if to have a DR plan, you really want a business continuity plan. That says how the DR plan is actually going to work. And what I mean by that is I can go ahead and get everything replicated, duplicated, and ready to run in a secondary data center. And then when that primary data center needs a failover, I can failover to it. But if I don't have a way for all those people to connect to that secondary data center or to RapidScale directly, then we're in trouble, right? Everything's up and running. They didn't lose anything, but they can't access it. So disaster recovery solution is one piece, and business continuity has to be talked about at the same time. And by the way, that's a great business to be in. If you understand this business and you can come up with disaster recovery and business continuity plans for your customers, guys, that's a consulting arrangement, and you can make a great side earning on that consulting arrangement. If you want to know more about that, if you want to get deeper around that, talk to your RapidScale channel managers, talk to your VPs, talk to me, talk to your solution engineers, talk with my marketing department, guys. This is a big product set for us, and we want you all to be able to take full advantage of it. It's a Trojan horse for us. I think I said that at the beginning, right? This is a start out with a product that the customer needs that we can do at a competitive cost point. And then once we start to get inside of that customer's environment, you'd be shocked at how much business ends up being pushed your way and in turn our way. So I love this little slide. It's really cool. It talks about production in secondary environments. So production would be data center 1, secondary, call it RapidScale, or call it data center 2. And you can go physical to physical, physical to virtual, physical to cloud, cloud to cloud, cloud to virtual, cloud to physical, virtual to virtual, virtual to physical, virtual to cloud. It's got quite a little interconnection going on between all of these lovely different ways that people do the backup, and we can pretty much handle it all for you guys. We have two great partners that we leverage for our replication software. And, we try to keep this agnostic when we're talking with clients, guys, just so you know. The reason we want to keep it agnostic is because, bottom line, we want to be able to give the customer the best solution based on what their needs are. But if you have a client who really wants to dig in and know what our replication software is, we're happy to share that with them. Part of the reason we chose our replication software partners, and just so you all know, Zerto is our virtual to virtual, and DoubleTake is our physical to virtual, and we pretty much run that parallel between those two. DoubleTake does have a virtual to virtual offering as well, and if we have a customer who's got a hybrid environment where they've got some physical servers and some virtual servers, then we're going to have to put them in the DoubleTake side of the house. But think about this, the idea behind just needing the license and just needing the storage for the majority of your customers out there makes this a very financially beneficial decision for them to make, especially if they're running that older style primary production in one data center, secondary failover in a second data center, where they're paying rent, power, and pipe in that second data center, as well as professional services to keep that gear up and running, et cetera, et cetera. It could be a good cost savings initiative for your customer. Let's continue. So here's a quick snapshot of our Cloud Recovery Report. All of our customers you see up here, there's my little Zerto logo. All of your customers will have access to this, right? They'll have either road that we roll down, they have access to the portals to go in there and see their jobs themselves and ensure to their own comfort level that their jobs are replicating and their server functionality is healthy, et cetera, et cetera. So the big selling point when we get to a customer that wants to see the portal. We can do portal demos for them. And here's a cloud recovery failover testing. And I love this because Zerto has developed what they call a warm failover test. And what it does is actually brings the failover side into production and lets the customer work off of that as production without taking the production side down. So it's really cool. It allows the customer, it allows 90% of your customers to say, hey, failover is operating properly as it should, which is something most business disaster recovery plans have to have in them. They have to have an annual test or a semi-annual test, right? We rarely see anybody who needs, to test every 3 years anymore. It's typically every year or twice a year, so keep that in mind as well. Our software allows them to do this without taking the entire environment down. But then again, you have some customers who have to take the whole environment down, so it's okay. All right, so that kind of wraps up our disaster recovery side of the house. So what do we use disaster recovery for? Failover environments, guys. Part of disaster recovery is as near to real-time replication as possible. And what that means is we're trying to keep our RPO as low as we possibly can. Now, always remember, the only way that you're going to replicate data from source A to destination B is by dedicating some internet access or point-to-point, some kind of connectivity between their production site and their failover site. So if you've got a customer, and this is really important to remember, be it recovery or be it backup, if you have a customer and I'm just going to throw some numbers out there, they've got 10 terabytes of storage and they have a daily change rate of 2 gigabytes of storage, meaning that's how much data changes on a daily rate. They have to have a pipe with enough capacity to handle that replication of those 2 gigs of data. So most of your customers are mid-market customers or large SMBs, and they've got 100 meg pipes, maybe multiple 100 meg pipes, maybe even gig internet pipes in there because bandwidth has gotten so insanely inexpensive. And we allow them to set up buffering or throttling, if you will, that says, okay, during the workday, we want 10% of this 100 meg pipe or 10 megs just to replicate our data. Leave the other 90 for us to do our production work. People surf the internet, go get orders online, all that fun stuff. So those customers are generally pretty good, right? But the bigger the customer gets and the larger the volume of data rate change, the bigger the pipe's going to have to be. And this all comes back to that famous RPO, Recovery Point Objective. Acronym is RPO, and definition is Recovery Point Objective, and how much data can I afford to lose? So flip-flop that and say I've got a 10 meg pipe and I've got 2 gigs of change. I'm never going to catch up, guys. If you limit me to 1 meg and you try to replicate 2 gigs over 1 meg, I think it takes a month. And then that just backs up and backs up and backs up. So a little more complicated than we let on, but again, that's why we like to do our shoulder-to-shoulder selling and bring us into the deals with you guys so we can help you close them together. So backup. What's the difference between backup and disaster recovery, and can they kind of be interchanged? So the short answer is backup solutions can work as a DR strategy. DR shouldn't be used as backup, right? So I'll say that one more time. A backup solution can work as a DR strategy, and we'll talk more about that later in the presentation, but DR shouldn't be used as a backup solution. And the reason being is because more and more bad companies are building more and more mischievous viruses to go in and crypto lock things, and crypto locker is pretty well known today. It's, you get that email that says, hey, complaint, and it's got a zip file, and then one of your customers opens that zip file and it goes in and it encrypts all of the data on their computer. And then they give this lovely little, hey, for 2 Bitcoins or $800, we'll give you the code to unencrypt your data, which is crazy, guys. And it's a multi-million dollar, $100 million a year business right now, to the point where we've actually ran into companies that have help desks set up in the Philippines where they're helping people unencrypt their data if they pay the ransomware. So that's called ransomware or crypto locker or lock-it. There's a bunch of them out there today. And they get more and more sophisticated on a daily basis. And this is why if you've got customers who work with the outside world,
This is why disaster recovery replication shouldn't be used as a storage backup replication. And that's because if I'm going to try to do real-time replication, then I'm going to be replicating that same file over to my replication side or my destination side, and all of that's going to get encrypted as well. So that's why backup is a great solution set. And as a lot of you know, we stayed out of backup for a long time. It is like bandwidth. It's the race to zero. But we started selling backup last year at the beginning of 2015, end of 14, because it was just a simple requirement for us to do it with our customers. I'm sorry, end of 15, beginning of 16. Sorry about that, my mistake. That being said, you know, when you're going to sell a backup strategy, you got to sell a big one and a good one. So that's what we have for you guys today. So let's talk a little bit about backup. Okay, so backup, and this is why I brought David on. So let those questions rip if you want to get deep, because I've got a smart guy on the call with me today who can help me with this. So you typically have three types of backup, guys. You've got block level storage, file level storage, and object storage. I'm not going to go as far as to read the descriptions here to you. We're going to send this out to everybody, and this presentation will be posted on the partner portal for you to go back out and take a look at it if you need to. But block level storage is typically what you see in your SAN networks, right? That's doing big blocks, and this is how a lot of companies have done backup for a long time. And you have file level storage, which gets down to the granularity of the individual files, right? This is saying, hey, I accidentally deleted that Excel file 3 months ago, and I need it back, right? So that's no longer living anywhere inside of my personal computer or my share file or whatever I'm looking for. So now I need to go into the archive, and I need to go find a version of that file that I worked on 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months ago, and that's what backup's all about. And then object storage backup. And this really gets into doing storage architectures for file systems and different pieces of bigger types of snapshot backups. So your storage protocols and these services that are associated to them, right? Block level protocols, fiber channel, and guys, this is going to get fairly technical, so I'm going to keep it at a high level, and I'm opening up my questions so I can be with Summer and see if any of them come up. And Ms. Summer, do we have a question? I can't quite read this one.
No, that's a follow-up to one I've answered, so I'm working on that.
Okay, no worries. Sorry about that. Okay, I can't see all these guys, so I'm just going to let Summer interrupt me when there is a question that she thinks should be posed to Mr. David and put out to the group, because I'm running off of a single screen today, and it's quite difficult, so sorry about that. Okay. So fiber channel, and this has been around for a long time, guys, and then fiber channel over Ethernet, ISCSI. I mean, these are all levels of block level protocols that you will be in conversations with, that when you're there with an IT manager who wants to show how smart she is, you know, she'll start talking protocols to you, right? So the biggest piece that I can have you guys take away from this slide is that, look, we can handle all of these protocols within our backup solution for you today, right? So Common Internet File System, or CIFS, I'm honestly, Network File System, NFS, I mean, these are things that I don't hear every day. But when I'm sitting there in front of the people who make their IT work, these are the pieces of the puzzle that they want to talk about. And this is exactly why we have David and the team, as well as Dwayne Barnes, who is our Director of Solution Engineering now, available to jump on calls with you guys. Our channel managers and myself and our VPs, guys, we're not gonna say that we are the engineers. We're not. I mean, we know a fair amount, but we can't get into this kind of a conversation about object storage standards and S3 on Amazon. Now, I know there are plenty of people on this call today who can, and I appreciate you guys joining the call. So if this is rudimentary, I apologize. But for a lot of us, this is a lot of high-level information that can get extremely deep, extremely fast. So that being said, the key for us is remembering RapidScale can go ahead, and with our backup solution, our backup product, we have a lot of flexibility for our customers in what they can and can't, what they can back up. And we also give them full control over their backup environment, right? So They can go in and set the retention periods. Matter of fact, we were with a customer last week, another financial services customer, and they moved everything into a backup solution with us. They were doing it on their own, but they moved it all over to us because they have a 7-year retention requirement, and the compliance organizations are pushing them to get it in off-site cloud storage, not particularly cloud, but off-site managed storage is what they're pushing them to do, because they have to hold that data for 7 years. Those of you who work in the real estate industry vertical, right, realtors and brokers and loan officers, all those people need to hold their stuff for 3 years, guys. And if you're a busy loan officer, that's a lot of files. It's a lot easier to back it off all digitally and have it held for 3 years and then set an automatic deletion that says after 3 years, let's go ahead and automatically delete these files because we've held them as long as we're required by law to hold them. And by the way, that's an important part of deletion and having a process and a strategy around when to delete things. You'll have a lot of customers out there, you know, they want to delete the day that they can delete it because it makes their life easier if they ever have to go through an audit. Having been on the wrong side of an audit, knock on wood, it doesn't happen again, they can go back as far as they want. And if you have that data, you have to share it with them. Right? So the reality is we always look at the IRS, and I'm not jinxing anybody on this call, but you know, they have what they call their trivial audits, which is where they're just asking you a couple of questions. And the person who comes in with their CPA and all of their records organized and they can answer those questions, and typically they get the pass or they agree that, you know, hey, this was wrong, it's our mistake, we'll pay for it, whatever it is. You know, it's the person who comes in with the shoebox of receipts and can't show any organizational skill sets that they go, well, we might want to look a little deeper, and then they go to a full audit, which always is not fun, I'm pretty sure. So Cloud Recovery and Cloud Backup, some qualifying questions, and again, we give these to you guys so that you can go out in the field and have some real questions to ask your customers and your prospects that hopefully will open the door to get a discovery call going with us and with you in the future. So again, I won't read these to you, but I think that the one piece I want to touch on is that limited IT resources. So what we've seen in this marketplace over the last 18 months is a tremendous amount of pressure on IT organizations in mid-market customers and down. So for us, a mid-market customer is really, you know, 2,000, 1,500 users, if you want to call it 1,000 users and down. We typically see one IT person, you know, serving anywhere from 100 to 125 users. And the larger you get, the more you think you can do more with less, right? And leverage technologies to do things. So when you're looking at a customer who has limited IT resources, this is typically a workload that they would love to outsource to you. They'd love for you to take over their DR responsibility or their backup responsibility, put them in an environment where you can fully manage it for them. They don't have to worry about it anymore. You become a partner, a vendor that they can rely on for a very critical workload that they may not just have the skill sets, or they may not have the bandwidth anymore to handle. So really, I think limited IT resources is a great place where not only can we strive in disaster recovery and business continuity and cloud backup, but all of our other product sets as well. So target those customers, guys. They are great opportunities for you and for us. Critical data, right? This goes back to what we were talking about before. If you're talking to the CFO of a financial services company and you ask them how mission critical are your trading data, or is your trading data, you're going to sit back and listen, because he's going to give you, or she's going to give you 10 minutes of how exactly mission critical it is, right? Because there are heavy fines that get levied against them if they can't produce it. If there's some kind of an inquiry, they have to be able to produce that data. So know your audience when you're sitting in front of them, right? The whole idea of doing these webinars is to give you guys tools to let you go kick the doors down and create new opportunities for yourselves and your companies, and hopefully for RapidScale while we're with you. but really focus in on who am I talking to today, because the conversation is different when you're talking to the CEO versus the CFO versus the MIS director or IT director versus the IT manager, right? It's always a different conversation. And by the way, CFO and CEOs love to talk about downtime or how they can't have it or afford it. So if you notice, these are not specific granular feeds and speeds questions. These are meant to be open-ended probing questions that allow you to explore where your customers' challenges and problems are and help solve those challenges and problems with technology, preferably with technology you get from RapidScale. So that concludes our training today on the difference between Cloud Backup and Cloud Recovery. And we are going to open it up to any questions that you guys may have. And I'm keeping trying to open these things, Summer, and I can't. So, Summer, do we have any outstanding questions?
We don't currently have any.
Fantastic. Okay, guys, well, we'll give you 15 minutes of your Wednesday back. As always, thank you so much for joining the presentation today. We hope you found it useful and informative. Again, you have channel managers all over the country who are here to support you, so please reach out to our channel managers if we can do anything to help get you guys into selling more cloud or get you more an expert on any particular product or service that we happen to represent. And, you know, let's go win some business together. As always, I appreciate Summer for jumping on the call and helping me out today. And David, thank you for joining as well. We will be emailing the presentation out to everybody within the next by this afternoon. And we'll have the presentation up on the partner portal within 24 hours. Thanks, guys. Good selling, and have a great rest of your September. Bye-bye.